Don't harass the flight crew. Get over here. Alright, it's basically everybody. Everybody that matters. Cool. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sea of Azov. In case you are unaware, my name is Mark Stanton. I am the team leader for Phantom 2, your CIA counterparts within Task Force Cobra. This is Operation Crossbow. We are here in support of Surface Action Group Victory, which is the group of ships that we are aboard. We are currently situated off the east coast of the peninsula of Podgorsk. If there are any questions throughout this briefing, please let me know. I'll only laugh at you once. This is your overall orientation map. As I stated, we are currently in the Sea of Azov on the eastern side off the coast of the Oblast of Podgorsk. As a situation report, the Undersecretary of State, in case you weren't following the news or reading your deployment orders, was put into critical condition 2 days ago on September 29th as a result of a roadside bombing sustained while passing through the town of Kovrov.
Who's responsible for this damage? Is this going to be something that taxpayers? Is this a FEMA? Is this going to be, or is this company going to get held liable for this?
Well, I hope the company is going to be held, first of all, liable for this, because they had plenty of warnings, lost their license, and they should have acted. I've been on the phone with FEMA, and of course on the phone with the governor and her team, and it is going to be important.
He was evacuated here to Surface Action Group Victory and has now been transferred elsewhere to receive further medical treatment. We have been deployed to surveil, investigate, and destroy the organization, or plural, organizations responsible for the attack here. Podgorsk itself is an autonomous province of the Republic of Chernobyl, which is located on the northern side of the Sea of Azov. Podgorsk is attached to Chernyrus's South Zagoria province. Podgorsk is home to a relatively small population. It's only connected to Chernyrus via a solitary railway line on the north side. And through boat traffic. Some notes on the map that you guys can either see there or with the one provided to you are that there is a unmarked river that goes through the center of the peninsula from north of the town of Vinto to north of the town of Rezniki. There's also a marsh that's north of the river in the valley that's between hills 202 and 273. Questions on anything, just orientation, where we're at thus far? Cool. We've gathered some really rudimentary intel thus far. We've linked up with some some informants that we had established previously back during Operation Red Hammer that was conducted by the U.S. military here during 2015. Due to the age of most of these informants, a lot of the info that we've got is a lot of hearsay. Phantom 2 conducted yesterday a series of low-profile intelligence operations to try and determine what, if any of that, is actually actionable. We've basically determined that most of it is not, though the only thing that we do have solid is that there is a suspicious factory in the town of Kovrov. Related to that, the only additional intel that we have gathered that's pretty consistent is that the organization that's responsible, we believe, is calling themselves the Red Guard. This is, if you guys are familiar with some of the history of the region, or just the Russia or the Soviet Union, Red Guard traditionally is a sort of communist branch of either the Russian military or some sort of break-off organizations. Current intel suggests that it's not a communist organization, that it's a primarily ultra-nationalist organization that's sort of drawing off of their namesake, that we do have only relatively rudimentary intel to confirm that at the moment. Questions thus far? Cool. The factory that we identified. It's located on the west side of Kavrov and is adjacent to the Red Hammer Memorial Monument. It's within about 500 meters of where the Undersecretary was ambushed, which is on the southeast side of Kavrov. The town itself has a port that's situated on its east side. There is a hospital on the south side by the water tower, and there's a small Russian Orthodox chapel in the center. We conducted a pass with a low-vis vehicle by the factory, and that has revealed that the gates are guarded by apparent Russian mercenaries, though we don't really have any intel on what the Red Guard looks like at the moment, so it's entirely possible that they're Red Guard. They're well-armored, well-equipped. There's also signs of fortification on the interior of the compound, as well as some, presumably, civilian workers. We're not entirely sure. Also,
there are
we got
personnel
lucky and we
working
managed to
aloft
snag a
on
picture of a person of
board.
interest
Do not
through
rotate,
that pass.
radiate, or
Following
energize
pictures
any
were taken
electric
from the
or
inside
electronic
of a
equipment.
heavily
Start
tinted
gas
vehicle,
turbine.
so
Or
we've
operate
just really
ship's
quickly
whistle while
boost
personnel are working
the
aloft
saturation
on
and stuff for
board.
them, so I do apologize for some of the image quality. All right, this is the interior of the northern gate. If you have a look at the red marks, those are sandbags that looks like they're on the inside top of a building that's deeper inside the factory. Obviously of note. This is the North Gate guard post. Visible was only a single guard, though you will note, again, that he is well equipped with Soviet bloc weapons and some pretty top-of-the-line mainline Russian plate carrier and stuff like that. The uniforms are a bit sporadic, as they tend to be, but yeah. Moving on through there. This is the POI that we identified in the backside top window of one of the buildings inside the factory. I'll get to information on him in a second. This is the south gate. That's one of the guards that was visible there. Going a little bit farther along, we had what appeared to be civilian workers on the inside, so that's important to note. And not that this gives a whole lot of additional info, but we had that's an alternative view of the south gate, which shows a second guard in there, but nothing major from there. And then this is the information on the person of interest. Facial recognition picked him up as one Oleg Antonov, who's a known Russian associate of Mikhail Vashchenko, Rhinestone, who all of you guys will remember from Operation Bloodhound. Antonov was seen departing north from Kavrov in a UAZ, but we weren't able to effectively tail him, so his whereabouts are currently unknown. Questions on either the POI, the picture of the factories, anything that we've gone through thus far?
Nope.
Okay, Russia. Russia has given the U.S. Navy permission to enter the Sea of Azov through the Kerch Bridge, mostly through them trying to avoid an international outrage incident, yada, yada, yada. We can leverage that well. Anyway, the long story short of that is that they're not particularly happy about letting us through, so they're being Russia and harassing us with that. So SAC Victory the entire time has been pretty consistently harassed by Russian rotary wing and fixed wing assets. They originate to the north and to the east generally of where we're currently located, because that's where Russia is. They're mostly annoying us rather than trying to escalate to a full-scale conflict from the intel and just their behavior. Standard procedure for them is conduct a couple of flybys, radar locks on people, generally be a nuisance, cause some problems, that kind of stuff. It's nothing that we haven't necessarily dealt with before, and I know the 160th has procedures for dealing with this sort of thing. We've got our response flights out and stuff, so that's something to be aware of. Missions. Here's the gig. Operations are beginning immediately following the briefing, just due to the time that has already passed. We've been plus 2 days since the bombing, so intel's going cold. We want to move on this as quickly as possible. So, 8321, Hades, you guys are tasked with raiding the factory that we've identified, transporting back any intel or personnel that you can find. You will be departing at 10:30 local time, which is in approximately 30, 40 minutes from now. So as soon as we're done here, I'd recommend you get any of your guys briefed that are still asleep back there, get your equipment on, and get ready to depart. 8311, 8312, you guys are going to be positioning yourself the northern side of the peninsula in a situation, it's up to you guys, but get yourself into a position where you can quickly respond to any intel collected by 8321 and or anything else that we pick up while we're here. Your departure will be at 11:45, so in about an hour and a half or so. 160th SOAR, you guys are tasked with countering the rotary wing section of the Russians' harassment operations. You'll be doing security flights as well as interception of any of their rotary wing assets. Please don't try and intercept fixed wing. That's why we have our fixed wing for that. Your job is to escort them out away from us if they try and approach either the surface action group or the peninsula. Radar has picked up a couple of them doing some passes near Podgorsk, so keep that in mind. Your guys secure that as well. You're also going to remain on standby to provide transport to the ground forces if and when that is necessary. Here's a couple of mission considerations for you guys. Consider these operations to be semi-sanctioned. We've got a little bit of leeway due to the bombing, that we don't have official permission from the local government or from the Turner's Defense Force to be running full-scale combat operations on their home turf. If you're confronted on the ground, all you're going to say is that we're investigating the bombing of a U.S. official diplomatic mission. Don't give them any other info. If you've got questions, radio back here. I can give you some more BS to spout out. So, play it cool. We're not using helicopters for CAS except in really extreme situations due to that. Infill, exfil, relocation, moving you guys around, that's all able to be done. Though for 160th, you pilots, you guys have to avoid all of the urban environments. You'll be avoiding CDF positions, and you're to remain below treetop level to try and minimize the risk of a political incident. Flights over or near the airspace of CDF bases, strictly prohibited. And again, your primary mission, at least for the start here, is going to be bolstering our rotary wing presence around SAG Victory and aiding in the interdiction and escort of Russian aircraft that try and cause problems. Due to those factors, I highly recommend that you guys use boat-based infills on moving to land. We've got in the well deck, we've got 2 Mark 5s as well as 8 assault boats readily available that can be used for you. ODA 1411, I missed a thing there. They'll be running the Mark 5s for you guys just so that we can retain better control over infill, exfil, and sort of repositioning of you guys while you're there. If you want to dive out of that, go for it. The specifics of when, or the wheres of your infill and exactly how are obviously still up to you. Though again, I would recommend a Mark 5 deployment due to the other considerations. Finally, weather and ROE. If you'll take a look outside, we've got a major storm front that's just pushed in. So we've got heavy cloud cover, somewhat reduced visibility, and heavy rainfall that's expected to get worse going forward. We've got a little bit of a lull at the moment, I say as the rain starts to pick up. Wind speeds are expected to be around 20 knots with gusts up to 30, and the waves will be a bit rough, so 160th, sort of keep an eye out for that. This is, again, part of the reason why I recommend a boat infill, given the current weather situations, given the 160th's limitations around avoiding airspace and having to fly really close to treetop level. If they're battling 20-knot winds with that, they're going to have a little bit harder of a time. So sort of keep that in mind there. And then finally, rules of engagement are the following. Standard ROEs that you guys normally have do still apply, so, you know, don't track civilians, all that fun stuff. The Russian mercenaries, armed individuals that you come across should be identified as hostile before you engage. I don't need you killing hunters, causing additional problems there, though obviously our mission and the safety of your teams come first. Turner's Defense Force, CDF, any of their bases, they are considered friendly to Blue 4. They're U.S. backed, so don't engage them. Let's not cause problems. Again, if you guys get yourself into a pickle, we can deal with it politically, but try and avoid that. For 160th, interdict transport Russian aircraft away from the surface action group and from the coastline using your standard operating procedures. You are not to fire unless fired upon. Let's not start World War III while we're here.
Question regarding that.
Yep, go for it.
If we have unknown air assets, Russian or otherwise blatantly disregarding our calls and not responding, what CR are we at that point? Are we still waiting to be fired upon, or if they are deemed a credible risk to the SAG, are we...
Yeah, that'll come down to the air controller that'll be run out of the Thorn. That'll be their call to make, not mine. I believe their standard operating procedure is that you give them the standard warnings, you give them your standard stuff, and then if they continue to disregard risks and the commander deems it a large enough threat to the surface action group, then presumably you'll be told to open fire. But again, that's their call, not mine.
I'll be
Roger.
on the ship. Send a message to me.
Any other questions on anything else that we've gone through, covered? This is the main end of that. So if you've got any questions about your assignments, anything that we've gone through, the situation, anything like that, now's the time to speak up.
How far north are 21, or 11 and 12 supposed to be deploying?
Up to you.
You said 11,
Yeah, north of the peninsula, you'll notice is basically there's the majority of the urbanization on Podgorsk is south of that river. So north of that, you'll mostly encounter forests, and I think there's like one or two no longer used CDF positions back from 2015. But you're not going to find a whole lot up there. So find your position, get comfy, stand by for further. As soon as 8321 relays any intel that they have, you guys will be redeploying from there. But if it happens quicker than you guys, before you guys are in position, then you'll be out immediately. But aside from that, we just want you on there so we don't have to worry about infill for like a really quick operation. So have a look at the map. It's up to you. Any other questions?
Yes.
Yes, go for it.
What's the general disposition of the populace towards Americans?
They're friendly to us. Operation Red Hammer and Red Anvil was U.S. intervention back in 2015, 2016. So it was a conventional operation that steered the populace heavily towards our favor. Their military is U.S. backed. We've maintained a fairly solid diplomatic relation with them. The Red Hammer Memorial Monument is dedicated to the CDF and U.S. soldiers that died during that operation. So they're in reasonably good terms with us.
Solid. You mentioned earlier there's a CDF, but how many other local factions are there aside from the CDF?
The Podgorsk province has a police force. Aside from that, just their standard civilian workers. Chernish Defense Force is basically the Podgorsk is an autonomous province of Chernish, so they basically loan out Chernish Defense Force here. And then aside from that, we don't have any intel on other major factions, just the Red Guard from the limited intel that we do have. So expect some insurgent style force, I guess.
All right, so largely unified op for then. We know if they have any air or armored assets?
Sorry, back up to where you said largely unified op for. CDF is blue for.
I know that. I'm talking about like how many different op 4 groups are there?
Okay, yeah, I'm tracking.
Faction?
Yeah,
That's
it's not Bloodhound where we've got like 3 different factions vying for control. Sorry, continue.
Do they have any air or armor assets that we know of?
The CDF or the Red Guard?
Red Guard.
Red Guard, I can't tell you. All the information that I know, I just gave you.
Roger. No further questions.
Cool. Anybody else? Anything else?
Do we expect these Russian mercenaries in front of the factory to be highly hostile when we engage them, or should we try and ask them to fucking lower their weapons first?
I have no idea. I did a pass in a low-vis vehicle and didn't stick around to find out or spook them. I'll leave that to your discretion. I don't know. I don't really have a good answer for you on that one, Captain. We need eyes in the factory. We do have confirmation that we have a known associate of Rhinestone in there, which gives us a substantial amount of suspicion that is going to be some form of arms deal factory or like a supply location or something like that. So we need eyes in there. You're welcome to try a peaceful approach and escalate from there if you feel like. That would probably be the best way to go. We don't want to cause any unnecessary destruction or killing, but it is your call, given that you'll be the one conducting that operation.
Well, the ROE does say they must be identified as hostiles.
Yeah.
Technically means we can't shoot first, because I don't think we're gonna be able to walk up and ask, "Hey, are you hostile?"
If they don't piss off and you can't gain entry through standard means, then obviously schwack them and move on. The mission and the objective. This is, to be clear, that is literally our only lead in this area. So that can't fall short. Don't let anything happen to make that lead go cold. So do what you have to get in there. Try and minimize risk to you and everybody else. But yeah.
And try and take that POI alive.
He's no longer there. If you do come across him, please, I would love to have a chat with him. But yeah, like I said, he was seen departing north out of Kovrov in a UAZ, which we were unable to tail. We haven't identified his location. If we do get intel on where he goes, 8321, if you guys are close, then you'll probably be redeployed. But aside from that, you'll be headed back here to deposit off the intel, and 12 and 11 will be probably tracking him down if we find out where he's gone.
And we're looking for the usual, right? Laptops, documents.
Yeah,
cell phones,
laptops,
that sort of
documents,
stuff.
cell phones, equipment, funding, money, bank accounts, passwords, all that shenanigans.
If we do found weapon stashes, do we blow them on site, or do we just secure it for the CDF?
Probably blow it on site. It wouldn't be a secure for CDF. If you were to secure it, it would be for one of the ODAs to exfil. Again, consider operations semi-sanctioned. Probably blow it on site would be the best course of
Do we
action.
have a point of contact for the CDF then, so we can tell them, "Hey, we're blowing some shit up over here," or do we just blow it up and leave?
Yeah, blow it up and leave. Like I said, semi-sanctioned. We're not supposed to be conducting mainline combat operations on their home territory. We don't have permission for that yet. We're working on that, but it's been 2 days. So, yeah, we're taking some SOCOM creative liberties with our where we're supposed to and not supposed to be, if you will.
Noted.
Nobody saw anything. Witnesses?
Witnesses are fine. Again, if you're confronted, tell them that you're investigating on behalf of the United States government, investigating the official diplomatic mission. I forget what I wrote, but yeah, have a go-to line for that. As a note, the population speaks Cherno Russian primarily, which is a dialect of Russian. I think most of them, there's a fairly high English count, so you should be okay managing your way through that if you need to sort of stumble your way through conversation with a local. Yeah.
Regarding civilians, I see
Yeah.
there's one airfield labeled. Are there any regional airports for civilians? Any eccentric billionaires that fly helicopters, etc., etc.?
No. Any air traffic in and out of Podgorsk is done through Hayes Air Force Base. Yeah, and boat traffic. The Podgorsk doesn't get a whole lot of tourism visitors or very wealthy populations. You'll note the provincial capital, Zernitra, not that large as far as capitals go. And then remember, it is just an autonomous province of a much larger country inside of a bunch of much larger countries. So.
Affirm. And regarding waterborne threats to the SAG, is that going to fall under 160th jurisdiction as well, or will that be handled by the Navy?
A good question. I don't have a good answer for you. That'll be up to the sort of fleet commander.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? These are good questions. Keep them up if you have them.
Are the no-fly zones also no-boat zones? Or can we boat through there?
If you want to boat through there, just don't get seen.
Okay.
that answers your question.
Just that, aircraft are generally a little bit bigger radar cross-section than boats.
So should
like
we
I
not
said-
be going in then in overt military gear for that?
You can. Like I said, it's semi-sanctioned, so you can go in overt military gear. I would recommend something that's relatively identifiable.
Yeah, there were a bunch of flags and stuff.
Yeah. It's not a black operation or anything like that. But again, we don't want to provoke the CDF or make them ask too many questions. If we can grab the intel that we need without letting them know that, hey, we were conducting major combat operations on your soil without your express permission, that'll be easier for the higher ups to deal with, rather than, yeah, sorry, we took executive permission because our Undersecretary of State was nearly murdered on your territory, so sorry. It'll smooth things over politically just a little bit better if we can do the former.
Right. So the lower the profile, the better. But if they're a bunch of dirt farmers, what are they going to do with the United States?
Yeah, and again, it is a U.S.-backed government, so at the end of the day, we'll be able to smooth things over with not a whole lot of problems. But my job is to try and minimize the amount of problems and headache created for the brass. Other questions?
Are there any other people of interest that we should keep our eyes open? That
not that I'm aware of at this time. Keep an eye out for Rhinestone and any of his standard associates. I don't have any intel that says anybody else is here. He's the only one that I've identified. What's this guy? Oleg. He operates normally off by himself from the sporadic intel that we have on him. Back to him if you guys are curious again. We don't have any intel that says Rhinestone is here personally. Keep your eyes peeled if you get any indication that his sort of paramilitary organization is around. I'm sure Captain Hawkins or Master Sergeant Faulkner can apprise you. They dealt with his organization at the start of Operation Bloodhound. So, yeah. The short answer is no.
And as far as the redeployment, once we get on land and we get the intel from 21, I assume we're being redeployed by Hilo, as mentioned earlier.
If it's far away, probably. And again, 160 with that, just make sure read the map very carefully. Avoid major urban environments. Please avoid military bases. That's much more headache than I need. And keep it below terrain, below treetop level if possible, to minimize and avoid radar and visual detection. And then for MSOT leadership, for you guys, don't expect or request hot LZs, extracts, things like that from inside major urban centers. If you're doing helicopter relocation, infill, exfil, whatever, please have it in sort of secluded areas that 160th can reach without too much hassle. Because again, remember the wind and the lower visibility, it's going to be a bit of a pain for them. So, yeah.
So, is there any chance of having local assets move sort of civilian vehicles for use at any time?
Not easily. Again, that'll range into the perspective of I have to tell somebody that I'm conducting combat operations on their soil without their permission. So, if you guys are in like a really, really bad situation, like maybe, though I can't. That's a pretty niche thing. No is going to be the shorter answer.
Well, I mean, a raid is inherently quite a loud thing that happens. Would we be expecting local police and military to arrive and investigate?
Possible. Very possible if you take too long. Most of the police force is situated out of their provincial capital. Everything is close enough that they basically respond out of there. So if you're in Kovrov for too long, chances are they will get people down to you. Yeah, so don't stick around for too long, and if you're confronted by the local police, please don't shoot them. Again, tell them that you're U.S. military and you're going from there. Let's not escalate this further. Again, trying to avoid headache, but don't give me more headache by trying to avoid headache, if that makes sense.
And what's the Russians' relationship to Belarus sovereignty? How much do they respect it?
Well, the 2015 conflict was over Russia saying this is ours now, and then them being kicked back out. So, if I need to explain further, I can, but sort of take that for what you will.
Okay. Understood. I'm wondering, like, will we expect to see Russian assets in the air over land, or will that mostly be restricted to the sea?
They'll mostly be seaborne. They've not encroached too much, just because the CDF has had a reasonable sort of air presence, though not so much in Podgorsk. Yeah, I wouldn't expect them encroaching on mainline Podgorsk airspace too much. Though, like I said, the radar has picked them up flying over pretty close there, so it's entirely possible that they're trying to get ISR into what has been happening. So 160th, your job is to say, hey, piss off.
All right, so if we are seeing armed helicopters over land, even if they're not shooting at us, we still need to keep an eye on them because at that point,
Yeah, though,
the
do
likelihood
keep in
of it
mind,
not being
do keep in
Russian
mind the
increases.
CDF does use primarily Russian equipment. One of the
Understood.
bases at the southeast side is a helicopter base primarily, so there's a solid chance you will see Russian helicopters. Let us know, and we will be able to tell you whether it pops up as CDF or Russian.
Do you have any defining markings on the CDF equipment?
I don't know off the top of my head. I will have to ask someone and get back to you on that one.
For the effect of telling Russians to sod off and go away, do we have lists of things to say in Russian to yell at them, or are we just gonna be shouting in English and hoping for the best?
I will defer to your chain of command. It should be your standard SOPs. I believe the aviation standard is aviation English. So calling over guard, I believe they're legally obligated to understand and respond. But I'm not a pilot, so I only have a little bit of a knowledge on that.
But whether the Russians will actually respond in English, well, you know.
Yeah,
it's
that's the other question, whether or not they'll respond or just continue to be annoying. They've been sort of alternating, from what I've overheard, they've been alternating between whether or not they want to respond or not. But yeah, it's Russia, so.
We'll have a discussion about it, Chief.
No, always go inverted and flip them off.
Always works.
As far as
Congratulations.
Mark 5 socks, will with the MSOCs be having to man those and keep
No,
control of those
as I said, one of the ODAs is going to run the Mark 5s to sort of control that, because we have 2 Mark 5s, 3 MSOTs, 3 or 4 ODAs. We've got a lot of people who potentially need to use them, so yeah, the ODAs will be keeping hold of those. The assault boats, we have enough for each of you guys to, if you guys want to take assault boats, leave them, bury them, whatever, you can do that. More questions?
For any kind of infield resupply with the aviation, I assume same rules as the pickup supply. We need to be far enough away from any cities or urban areas to allow the aviation to show up.
I would highly recommend, if you had to do that, I would highly recommend like secluded coastline stuff, because again, they will then have to sling load something. They can't really sling load below treetop level very well. That's going to cause some problems. So
good luck is the answer to that.
Yeah, coastlines would probably be your best bet with that. We might be able to get an ODA to you with the Mark 5 or an assault boat with some supplies or something like that. We can make something work if you need a resupply. Call it up, give us a little bit of advance notice, and I'll sort of brainstorm a way to make that work.
Really good. Hopefully we don't need it.
And worst case scenario, you guys are 4 clicks out from the carrier group, so, or not the carrier group, but from the surface action group. So worst case scenario, you guys can always come back here for a rearm resupply, as long as you're not like embedded too deep. Take the boats back out, take them back in. We can do a nighttime resupply run or something like that. You can make it work, I'm sure. More questions? Going once. Twice. Cool. You guys are dismissed. Hades, you've got 25 minutes. Get your guys lined up and get them ready to go. Good luck, guys.
Aviation with me.
Hold on.